Good afternoon, dear online participants in our session. We welcome you at the VEB.RF Forum 2022. A whole range of sessions are taking place within that forum dedicated to ESG, corporate governance, and broader ESG problems. ESG agenda is about environmental, social, and corporate governance. This topic has become very relevant. For instance, in 2021, ESG term actually is 2 times more frequently used compared to digital. So it means that there is a lot of focus placed on that topic in the banking and financial sector as well. Most importantly, over the last year, ESG agenda went beyond the Russian exporters and now is part and parcel of the everyday business life of the Russian companies. This is the result of the last year. At our session, we're going to speak about the role of the state and financial institutions for the development of ESG in Russia. And let me introduce to you our August panelists who are here in the studio. Thank them very much for their time. We're speaking about the ESG agenda, role of financial institutions. Let me introduce to you Ilya Torosov, Deputy Minister of Economic Development, First Deputy Governor, Bank of Russia, Ksenia Yudaeva, VEB.RF, First Deputy Chairman, Alexey Miroshnichenko, Deputy Chairman of Management Board of Gazprombank, Elena Borisenko. I will moderate the session. I'm Vyacheslav Laschevsky, Chairman of the Board of Directors of AGT Communications Group. And before we proceed on with our discussion, I'd like to suggest to our esteemed speakers a Blitz survey, which consists of 2 very interesting questions. Timing would be very strict, I will offer 2 minutes for every speaker only, and there are 2 questions, dear colleagues. Question number 1, ESG in the world and Russia. Is it a short-term project or is it a long-term project? Is it a strategy for the business for the long-term period? And to follow up that question, should the business start up right now, hurry up now, or it can wait and see? This is the first question. The second question is related to the beneficiaries. Who are the potential key beneficiaries of the ESG transformation project? Is it the state, the business, the society, or someone else? And how our national business may benefit from becoming part of that process? Just any volunteers to answer that question? Well, I will answer the first question. In 2015, the ESG trend emerged, $1 trillion. In 2020, it's about green finances. In 2021, it doubled to $2 trillion. A couple of all the financial instruments and bonds were green. In 2020, actually, we could say, so let's wait and see. But now there is no time to be complacent. And really, this is a good feature for the competitive fight. And you have to be part of that game. And you have to run to join the race. Any responses to the second question, just to introduce more diversity? If I may, I would say that it makes sense to mention immediately the ones who are speaking about ESG. There are 2 main components. And the first component, this is about environment, and the main accent is made on the climate. We are paying for the safety and security to prevent the deterioration of the situation, and it's very difficult to feel being a beneficiary. So you pay for keeping the situation the same, and that's it. We'll have to limit our consumption to spend more time to do the sorting of the garbage. So everyone is bearing costs, but who is benefiting from that? In your opinion, there will be less chances for natural calamities and uncertain ramifications of the climate change. So it means that we could control the situation better. We will benefit in the sense that the situation will not deteriorate too much. The second part, the social aspect, there are beneficiaries. The social aspect of ESG transformation benefits the society, the employees, and the social aspect of ESG transformation is about bringing down the inequality to redistribute the boons for the sake of those who are vulnerable. Ms. Yudaeva, what question are you going to respond? Well, let me react to the first question. And again, I will speak about the climate. I do think that ESG is a long story, and we're dealing with the climate issues for quite a while. Last year, really, we saw a dramatic acceleration, more closer attention paid to that topic, and I'm confident that this is a long-term topic. We're speaking about the risks, physical risks, transition risks related to the change in the policy, and these risks will only exacerbate. This policy is really long-term. When you have to react to that, you have to react as fast as possible, then you will have less risks in future. Elena, what do you think? I fully subscribe to what colleagues have said, so we had to react the day before yesterday. Regarding the beneficiaries, I may say that what Alexey spoke about is absolutely right. The main beneficiary is a man who can live on planet Earth in the habitual conditions and circumstances. If you don't do anything, if you don't change anything, the evidence shows that very soon our habitual life would change for the worse. The transformation beneficiary is a man and mankind in general. But speaking about our national interests, I'm confident that the Russian economy is a very serious beneficiary of these changes, how paradoxically it may sound, because the potential of our climate changes, potential of other factors is huge, and we arrange that the right way. The world in general and the Russian economy in particular would benefit from the right organization of that transformation. Summing up, we may say that actually we had to react well before yesterday. The only difference is either yesterday or the day before yesterday, or even earlier, a week ago, or months ago. And the second question, we assume that this is something that the whole mankind needs, that the country needs, and there are no losers, because there is no alternative for that. We have to move this way, and there are no other options. Did I get you right? And did I sum it up correctly for our audience? I hope that business will note what we have just discussed, that they had to react even the day before yesterday. That direction is overdue. Let me make another screenshot of the situation. So let me highlight the current status of ESG agenda, how the business perceives that, what objectives are there. And this is based on the survey of the leading auditors and consulting companies. So this is not just an expert opinion, but this is a result of a lot of surveys. Can you show the screen? I will comment on that very briefly. On the first slide, you see the key challenges we're speaking about that the Russian and the world economy are facing: sustainable development, climate change, energy transition, and carbon footprint reduction. So these are the key things that we have to work on. An important aspect there is that with the time is running out since January 2023. CBAM would be introduced by the EU, and starting from 2026 it would be used fully, and it will entail a lot of risks, and this limits the time for reaction. That's a very serious challenge for our economy. Then Russia, and we are proud of that, is working very actively on ESG issues and ESG agenda. I mean, first of all, public institutions and regulators. What is done today? Russia has adopted the national methodology on green financing. Bank of Russia issued a whole series of 4 recommendations on disclosure of non-financial ESG factors. Also, national taxonomy is being applied. This is a fact which has been noted and appreciated by the world society. A lot of green projects are implemented by our banking institutions, and another important aspect is that the leading banks are setting up clients' ESG platforms and business associations so that we could communicate to business more intensively. So these are the things which tell us very systemic work is being done in that area. But at the same time, there is a systemic problem.
On this slide, you see the data from various agencies. 80% of companies of the real sector of the economy do not consider ESG practices seriously. 80%, I think it is a striking figure. According to PricewaterhouseCoopers, 58% of top managers do not know anything about the sustainable development principles, and only 6% of top managers understand and have a full understanding of the ESG agenda. According to the Accenture company, 57% of business representatives considered absence of support by the state as one of the barriers which prevent introduction of ESG practices. Perhaps they were shifting the blame on others, but in any case, 57% is quite a lot. According to Deloitte, the Russian business as a whole is not prepared to incur large costs on introduction of sustainable development practices. So it is the state which acts as the driver of the ESG agenda, but we see that 80% of companies do not understand how to invest in ESG projects. And Russian expert and the expert agency has made the following conclusion: it is necessary to reconsider the strategies of banks and companies for the introduction of the ESG agenda. And the business is looking at the state and expects a very active position of the state. So the ESG picture in Russia is as follows, as I have described. We speak a lot about the ESG problems, but the reality makes it necessary to work a lot. Therefore, the purpose of our panel discussion here is to discuss the roles and strategies of the state and state institutions, to present the mechanisms which have been developed so far, and to motivate our business to develop its ESG strategies. Our banking strategies and state strategies are not enough. Companies must also develop their own strategies. That means that the study shows how our discussion should be structured and allows us to discuss a number of questions which I consider quite important. And within the framework of our main discussion, I would like to ask Ilya Torosov, a representative of the Ministry of Economic Development, and to ask him the first question, which is about the strategic approaches of the state. We understand that Ministry of Economic Development is a strategist and it is responsible for developing the state policy. It is responsible for strategic results. It determines all the KPI and vectors of development. So what are the state's approaches to developing the national agenda in order to help the banking sector, the financial institutions to start working on their own strategies as soon as possible. We understand that this is one of the main keys to success, but incentives are necessary. So what is the strategic approach of the state? Thank you, Vyacheslav. I have only 7 minutes, although I could speak for 15 minutes. So ESG is a new tool of competitive fighting on the world arena, and we are now working towards recognition of our ESG architecture. So first of all, this concerns the climate, then the broad idea of responsibility and cooperative management and financial sector. As regards climate regulation, the most important thing is to limit greenhouse gases. It is very clear. All the rules of the game, all the conceptual basis is clear, and our job is to make it work right now. We have created our system of carbon units trade, the system of approval, the projects, the verification system. Already organizations have been set up which can verify Russian carbon reporting. So right now we are methodologically prepared for a transformation. As regards regulation, we need to adopt all the bylaws these 3 months and the next 3 months, and I hope that very soon we will adopt a project on greenhouse gases on Sakhalin. It is very important. It's a voluntary climate project. So now it is very close to the ETS system which exists in Europe. So we can here test quoting of penalties and trade of carbon units. So this has been adopted already in the first reading, and we hope that there will be the second and the third reading. And if the State Duma and the Council of Federation support us, we will get this federal law. Of course, there is already a scaling demand from the regions. The Kaliningrad Oblast, Irkutsk Oblast, Khabarovsk Krai and Bashkortostan are interested, but it should be understood that we need a calculated model, a calculated understanding who is going to pay for this in this or that region, and how will it be achieved achieved, because it is very important, serious, financial and methodological basis. And in order to get green finance, we hope that every 10th ruble which will be paid for the energy transition will be paid from the green finance. It's our KPI. We have already developed a green taxonomy. It has already been positively assessed by the OECD and CBI, I think. And we are optimistic as regards to the development of our taxonomy. We hope that it will meet all international standards, so that our companies will not pay twice for the verification of one and the same project, so that we could engage foreign money in such projects, and to be players on the international financial market. So that's our job, that's our task. No, it is an ambitious task for the nearest time. You know that in our taxonomy, nuclear energetics is considered green. In Glasgow, we promoted this point of view, and I hope that we will achieve recognition of this point of view internationally. Of course, we need new institutions of new national verificators. We have 3 ACRA, Expert Right, and some others. And 4 more, like Sterian, have already filed for accreditation. So if the business wants it, then of course we will do it. There have been 7 issues of green bonds from Francinarov, Torplast, and other companies, which is already good. We have increased by 23 the market of the green finance market. Of course, the base is small, but we are moving on, and we hope to achieve 1.5 trillion of green finance. And concerning the carbon tax, we have a very harsh deadline, 23-26 years. Well, as regards timing, from 23 to 2026, it is only a transitional period regarding reporting, but the absence of taxation, and by 2023 we will set up our system of verification, and we will launch our green projects. We hope very much that we will do it. As the government, we consider our job to create all this architecture. We worked during last year very hard, and I would like to thank the central bank for assistance. We discussed taxonomy and the climate project with the central bank. We worked together, and by 2026 we will be ready. And the business must understand that it needs it and rely on itself. We need to create financial reporting. The draft law is already in the government, and I hope we will soon present it to the State Duma. And all the public companies will have to disclose their financial reporting, and we hope that this year we'll see this law adopted. Which are the incentives? The taxation tools will be used, the transportation, the best available technology, and the development of the climate agenda is now financed by 10.5 billion rubles concerning verification, assessing the absorbing power of the forests, etc. And in the world, the demand for green bonds exceeds offer. Many investment funds no longer fund brown projects, dirty projects. We will look how it is going to work in this country within 1 or 2 years. And then when if we understand that we achieve our goals without support measures, like in most industrialized countries, if not, then in 1 year or 2 we will come back to the issue of support from financial tools. So there's a lot of information. You have spoken about non-financial reporting. I would like to ask Ksenia, representative of the central bank, what is your view of the prospects of including green issues into the strict documentation and verification, and will it help adopting this? Will it help the business to transition to green processes? Not only the top 20 of the banks are active in this field, we see that the banking sector and the financial institutions are not very actively engaged in this agenda, but you create the regulations, so you formulate them. So what do you think? Will non-financial reporting play its role? Will it be important in motivating financial institutions? Well, you are asking a lot of questions at once. Let me start with the basic question, because I have heard two different terms, taxonomy and financial reporting, and people often confuse them. I judge by my experience. We have taxonomy. Why do we need reporting? So taxonomy is a requirement for a project to be regarded as officially considered as green ones. And there is a system of verification, of confirmation of those requirements. And in this case, special funding is applied to them. Green bonds, as it has been said, which are traded on organized platforms, or in some cases green loans. But first of all these green projects, well, they should be checked if they are really green or not. We need additional information. Second, these projects are not all the amount of funding which companies receive. Therefore, in order for financial institutions and other companies to keep their situation in check, they need to know everything about the company and not just about the project. And the climate reporting has this aim. The approaches in the world are well developed. There is no single standard. Many have heard about NSFO, the organization which has developed this single reporting standard, and it has created a branch which will develop this reporting on sustainable development. And of course it will be based on the existing practices like TCFD's proposals. TCFD is active in the field of financial, is used in the field of green reporting standard, and it is used in Russia. Some countries go beyond it. For example, in the European Union, the requirements will be even stricter. You have mentioned that last year we issued recommendations. Indeed, based on the TCFD standard and the GI standard, the global initiative for reporting. We have issued recommendations for companies which have market-traded stocks and obligations. We have produced obligations to show how they should work and how they should report. Investors on the markets can scrutinize very closely which instruments companies sell and whether they have such reporting. And many companies are already reporting. And which is the format of their reporting? They use some standard which exists in the world. But it was not you who told them. But still we have given recommendations. But now we decided not to make it as a requirement, but only a recommendation, because there is no global standard and we would like to see it. And in parallel, we must create a structure of confirmation of this reporting. There's financial reporting, there's standards and requirements, and there is a whole infrastructure of auditing companies which confirm this reporting. But this regards only trading companies. As I have said, a company which issues traded stocks or bonds, traded bonds, is a large part of our economy, but it is not everything. And our financial institutions, our banks, sometimes are big, but they are not very big, they are not publicly traded, and they do not provide this reporting. Some banks have begun already doing this. I wish this process would be more or less chaotic. We would like to have it disciplined, to make it a disciplined process. But there is a draft law, but it is not yet but is still rather superficial. We need to flesh it out to see how these requirements are going to be taken into account. And not only green instruments, but all instruments must be assessed from the point of view of their contribution to the climate engagement in connection with the risks. And what are the tools are you going to use in order to motivate the banks and businesses to transition? Well, I think it's about regulation.
A lot's been said about that, but look, Bank of Russia is responsible for risks and responsible for financial stability. In terms of the financial stability, really, if we do not implement necessary measures, climate may create major risks. And if something happened for some natural calamities for some companies, that's about a risk, and traditional risks. If, for instance, certain taxes or sanctions are imposed against that company, its returns would deteriorate, would drop, and that's about risks. The banks have to take into consideration these risks in planning of their activities, and lots of regulators are thinking about that, developing different scenarios, trying to analyze how this situation may develop. There are lots of underwater factors, so to say. We have to look retrospectively at what risks manifested themselves before, and we extrapolate that for the future. Climate risks have never been assessed before, therefore we need some systemic modeling. Next, you have to understand how to manage that. Brown assets may incur certain risks, but if you underfund it, the risks may exacerbate. Therefore, the whole world is looking for the balance between the risks, and major financial regulators are now analyzing the practices. In Russia, we'll have to follow the international standards which would emerge in that area, but we are motivated to act faster, but step by step, gradually. Make a first step, then improve that and move next. Why? Hydrocarbons and hydrocarbon companies make the bulk of our economy, and we need transformation of our economy. And we have to bring down the risks for the financial system, as they would motivate their brown borrowers to invest into the green projects and to invest into the green portfolio to bring down the risks. I think that we have such a need, but really, we find ourselves in a situation when the infrastructure is ready, not just standards are ready, but we have a ready-made infrastructure regarding disclosure. Although this infrastructure is not fully ready, but we have taxonomy. Taxonomy is something we'd like to discuss with Alexey. So we looked at taxonomy, but this is very broad taxonomy. Really, there are projects with a major green input and with limited contribution. And we thought that probably, for instance, if the government could help us at that stage, probably, of the banking system as the Bank of Russia, we do not want to assume the responsibility for that. But if the government ranges the projects proportional to their contribution, we could vary the funding. So with the same level of the financial stability, the more contribution to the green agenda is made, the less risk coefficient would be, or the risk factor would be. But we need some internal ranking. So what VEB is doing, let's discuss taxonomy. So in terms of the brown borrowers, the companies which are not disclosing information, which are not dealing with ESG, let us define who the brown companies are, so that we could adjust our taxonomy. We need some definition so that we could take that into consideration in our regulation. Thank you so much, Ms. Yudaeva. And a follow-up question to Alexey Miroshnichenko from VEB.RF, who is developing the methodology, who is creating the platform for the implementation of the ESG methodology. We spoke about green taxonomy, and I know that this work is still in the pipeline. In what direction are you working to create new dimensions, new criteria, new parameters, new approaches? Maybe you have some promising methodologies and assessment standards. As taxonomy is concerned, as Ilya correctly said, the demand among the investors for green and ESG instruments surpasses the supply. Speaking about other sectors of taxonomy, it depends on what investors now want, what they're ready to invest in, and by means of these taxonomies, by means of helping our issuers to get these classifiers, how we can help them to sell Russian bonds better, especially to the foreign investors. We'd like to highlight our projects to our foreign investors and to get more money. So there are three segments. The second segment, which is being in the pipeline right now, it is on the VEB.RF website in order to get some feedback. This is the social projects taxonomy. So it means that you are discussing that with the business. Yes, we made a draft project and we published that on our website so that all the stakeholders involved could share their feedback. The same was done for the green taxonomy. So there are two pieces more in this puzzle.
Перпендикулярной плоскости, скрещивающейся прямой к тому, что мы сделали, есть еще два.
There are two more types of instruments, two types of classifiers, which are quite new, but still demanded for very much. The first one is called transitional bonds or transitional instruments. How is it different from the green bonds? So, for instance, green projects are about the type of projects. For instance, any electric vehicle project would be deemed green, and any oil project would be considered brown. So the transitional bond is about reduction of the carbon footprint. If you can prove that you are somehow reducing the carbon footprint, then it would be a transitional project. For instance, moving from diesel fuel to hydrogen fuel is a transitional project. Construction, greenfield project. For instance, we didn't have any generation capacity, and construction of gas-run or gas-fired thermal power plant cannot be acknowledged a green one or a transitional one. But for instance, if you can confirm that it is replacing the wood-fired or coal-fired burner, then it would be considered a transitional one, because you can calculate how much carbon would be saved. So it means that we can attract money to the projects which are not considered to be green, but at the same time, this is good for the projects which are both green and transitional ones. This answers the question of Ms. Yudaeva, how to measure the contribution, which one contributes more to carbon neutrality. This story would help us a lot. Another class of instruments in English is called sustainability linked. This is a project when the issuer would say that I'm not obliged to show the project. For instance, the green project is a targeted one. You have to show the project or the set of projects. Sustainability linked, these are the projects which are linked to achieving certain goals. That means that the company in general would commit itself to certain goals, reduce the consumption of electricity, or reduce the electricity per unit of product. And there would be a link between this goal and the bond coupon. And that means that the investors find themselves in a more beneficial position. In case of a green tool or a green instrument, for instance, the investor doesn't know what will happen if, for instance, the company misuses this money. Do you have to demand your money back, or actually whether the bond has to be redeemed earlier? But in case of a sustainability link, for instance, the situation is clear. For instance, that's the rate, and if the goal is not achieved, then the rate would increase. And these tools may help other companies, for instance, which do not have such clear transitional projects or green projects to, for instance, to get money for a long-term program. So it means that we can get such a classification of project and highlight these projects, and therefore more companies would attract more money. Therefore, we would increase the money attracted at reduced rate from the market, and we do hope that we will attract more money to the Russian Federation from abroad. I will have another question about the energy transition. We understand that this is one of very important steps and one of the serious mechanisms where the costs would be incurred by the people, by the business, by the state. Methodologically, do you think that we are ready for these costs? I mean, the society, the business, and the state, and how we may mitigate the gravity of that situation. Have you discussed that? Yes, we have discussed that. And we cannot answer that question fully. So energy transition is about achieving decarbonization. We can achieve that by means of moving to another sources of energy, or we can use this energy more leanly, so to say. 15% of CO2 emissions, which have to be cut, can be cut now by means of energy efficiency projects, which are economically efficient per se, without any extra costs, without any subsidies, without taxes on carbon emissions, meaning that these projects are beneficial for the initiators. Our favorite case is a new metalworks, which used to be an open hearth furnace, and now a syndicated loan would be attracted, and a new technology would be implemented, a so-called DRI, by means of hydrogen. And this project, this technology proved to be very beneficial. That's a very good coincidence. So this technology is green because it spends less resources and it consumes less energy, and means that it is more economically efficient. So it was another case is about energy efficiency and thermal efficiency. For there is a good case when the service provider would implement a project with a customer, and the reimbursement, the compensation would be linked to how much resources, how much energy would be saved. So it means that the provider would invest into the equipment. For instance, we change the incandescent lamps with the LED lamps, and the operator would spend less money, and from the money saved, he would pay for the work of the service providers. The payback period is 7 years, and this is just efficient because you actually save more, you earn more, and you can make better investments. Okay, I know what you mean, and we will know what to do in that situation. That's a very important situation, not only for the business, but I do think that for the society in general. And we continue our conversation. I would like to turn to Ms. Borisenko from Gazprombank. Gazprombank is a great business structure which funds and provides lending to the energy sector, and also is funding green projects. You are one of the leaders in that respect. My question is as follows. When looking for projects for investment, what are the terms, what are the conditions? Are you looking for such projects where people are applying for the credits? So what are the terms? What are the rules? You are the institute which works directly with the business. Can you tell us these secrets? Probably that would be very interesting. Thank you so much, Vyacheslav, for your kind words towards Gazprombank. Really, I'm flattered. In the brief time allocated to me, I will try to spill the beans a little bit And one of the secrets behind our work is that we approached very responsibly, arranging our lending, especially long-term lending, especially the project financing, for quite a while when this topic was not very popular, when it was not a regular thing, and we even were criticized for asking for environmental expert review, because we considered that as our responsible banking business. We believe that we had to assess all kinds of risks, regulatory and others. I drew one of the positive cases which tells us that it would be economically efficient to do this or that, and I do think that it was necessitated by the regulatory requirements. The old-style technological process could not stand any criticism. It could not meet any standards, so it was a forced measure for the business to move to different technology. Your statistics shows that there is little responsible business which is eager to move to another technology just out of love for nature. Although I do believe that the culture of environmentally friendly attitude would be brought up very fast. What the representatives of the federal authorities told us about the regulatory work which was done over the last year and a half, it was a mammoth work, and it won't be possible anywhere but in Russia. Certainly we can look for imperfections, but still, you can imagine how much work was done. If you compare end of 2019 and early 2022, the situation is totally different. And our main secret is that we are following the global trends and what is going on in the world, and really we are following the footsteps of positive changes. When we speak about the strategy of our business and the development, certainly there are 5 major blocks. The first block is connected to understanding that this energy transition is the heaviest of the energy transitions that the mankind experienced throughout its history.
The previous 3 were all connected with modernization, development, cost cutting. It was an obvious good for people, and our new transition is connected with a different level of culture and the possibility of man to restrict his own consumption and to pay money on it. And so now we need information, communication, and consulting in order to explain the preferences and profits and advantages that can be received. At first, we didn't see any understanding on the part of our clients, but now they know sometimes more than ourselves. They can tell us more than we can tell them. They understand their profit, their capitalization, etc., etc. So we worked with not only Russian but other companies like Uzbek companies, companies of in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. For example, the securities that were green securities that were issued in Moscow were traded in Luxembourg, and so everybody understood that the money could be found. Glasgow was a furore, unexpected for everybody, when the post-Glasgow initiative was signed by investors which have a portfolio for more than $133 trillion. It was And Russia can provide a lot for these investors. And now the demand for such offers is higher than the offer. And so what Russia can offer is really very interesting for investors. And our drawback becomes our weakness, becomes our strong point, our old infrastructure, worn-out infrastructure. Many enterprises still use the equipment built in the 1930s. Now it opens an opportunity to get us investment for the technological transformation. We see it because as we finance production have financed production for many years, and now we tell our clients so that they could earn a lot. And second point is new technologies, and I can say that our bank knew in advance and that it was necessary, and we have financed over 67% of wind energy in the Russian Federation. It was not done within 1 year. It has been done for a long, for a great number of years. And we understand that renewable energy sources will be developed and will work together with traditional energy sources. If we look at what is happening in the world, despite all the hype of energy transition and neutrality, when we hear about total end of, we have heard about total cessation of investment into carbon coal power stations, etc. But now we see that there is an understanding of the necessity of combining various sources of energy. Of course, there is no road, there is no way back. Nobody wants to live in 3 square meters with a shower once two months. No, nobody wants it. Everybody wants comfort. Everybody wants a normal life, and so we want to have it. To use new technologies to achieve it. And when investors and clients come to us and say that they want to transition to new technologies, we always try to help them. So someone comes and shows his good international ratings, position. Is it an argument for you? Yes, so there's an argument because the client knows about this rating, it takes care about this rating, of course, so this is a good sign. But of course, this is not enough to take a decision, because what has been mentioned today, that, for example, green ocean exists, the approval of non-financial reporting is a problem, but we see the downside in the rating. We see there is no single rating, so the European Commission has begun organizing a single rating agency. So this is a process which is going on. But what we see, and what I can even forecast, is that there will be a great boom of various platforms which would provide supposedly objective or perhaps really objective data, because our bank, development institutions, regulators will be interested in having a real climate project and a real green project, so that the taxonomy would not be just on paper, but that it would be real. Everything which helps to everything which helps to assess the real effect will be helpful, and it will help not only for those who control, but also for every enterprise. When we speak with an foreign investor, he understands that the yield from his dollar in a green economy is much higher than in any other jurisdiction. It creates a great potential to earn money. So I call on you not to fight against KPT. This is a unique historic moment when the Russian business, state and society should join forces and to transition not because of not under the influence of the stick, but in order to get the carrot. And I think that we have a unique window of opportunity, and we see we will see a real flow of money. But we need to be honest. There must be no greenwashing. We should create a transparent infrastructure for this, and we as a financial institution, we are interested in it. Not just Gazprombank, but every system building bank is interested in it. It will provide for potential for economic growth and for our income and the welfare of each person. Colleagues, thank you very much. I think we have provided more than exhaustive information on green business and all the ECG problems. We have discussed which state mechanisms function and how the banking system is being changed. We have heard the secrets from the Gazprombank how to receive investments in green projects. So we have had a very good session, and let us hope that we will put into practice what we have discussed here. But we cannot do it without any demand, any positive reaction from business. So I would ask all the market players to cooperate. I think together we will win. They say that in order to reach your destination, you need to walk. So I would like to congratulate you on the old New Year and on the new Year. So we have our old traditional New Year. So let us wish each other success in our undertakings, and may this new year be very good for all our work and for our life. Thank you very much.